Before the computers in today.
At least it's cool in here.
Yes.
Right, we're live streaming, so we'll get underway. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tara tara ki tai, e hi aki ana te atakura, e tio, e huka, e hau, i hei, Right, welcome along everybody. And just a heads up, we do have a bunch of board members online. We've got Simon, John, Sunita, and Pauline all joining us online. We have an apology from Victoria, early departure from Sunita and Pauline, I believe. Right, we'll get underway. So first up, we've got the local alcohol policy. Welcome along.
You don't have samples? No, sorry, not this time. But do you have our slides? Yeah, you do.
I will just keep line.
So read is on.
Read is on, yeah. Welcome along.
Kia ora koutou, thank you for having us. My name is Claire Fletcher. I'm the Senior Engagement Advisor that's working on the local alcohol policy. With me today is Amy Martin, our Research Analyst or Lead, and Philip Henderson, who's our Policy Lead. We also have Wade Morris in the back there, who is our one of our legal counsels for this project. We've come today to provide you with a progress update on the development of a local alcohol policy, answer any questions that you may have, and understand any feedback that you might have at this really early stage. We understand that some might want to get straight to the point and provide information, and others might be trying to understand what is a local alcohol policy, what can it and can it not do. So we aim to cover both things today, as well as at a high level provide you an overview of what the Life in Christchurch survey results told us from your board area, what the community perceptions are right now around alcohol harm and access to alcohol. We'll then have an opportunity to ask questions. So we'll try and move quickly through the information so that you have an opportunity to ask us anything that you might like. On that note, I'm going to hand over to Philip, and Philip is going to walk through the process for you. Could you change the slide, please? Oh, perfect. Do it that way.
Yeah, I'll just briefly explain what a local alcohol policy is and what it can and can't do. So the councils may choose to have a local alcohol policy, which gives direction to the district licensing committee to take into consideration when it makes its licensing decisions. LAPs are optional, but where a council has an LAP in place, it must be considered by the district licensing committee when it makes its licensing decisions. LAPs are there to support the purpose of the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act 2012, and that's that the sale, supply and consumption of alcohol is undertaken safely and responsibly, and that alcohol-related harm is minimised. A local alcohol policy may include policies on any or all of the things that are listed on the slide at the moment. So that could be provisions relating to the location of licensed premises, which may be in relation to particular areas, so literally the geographical area, or it could be in relation to proximity to existing licensed premises or certain types of facility. Sometimes people will refer to that as a sensitive site. An LAP may also include provisions relating to whether any new licenses or types of licenses can be issued in the district, full stop, or in any particular parts of the district. LAPs can also provide for trading hours for licensed premises that are set out in the Act. The LAP can direct the DLC to consider restricting or extending the maximum trading hours for licensed premises. LAPs can also set out direction for the DLC to consider on the types of conditions that might be included with licenses or types of license. So we've got one-way door conditions there listed on the slide. That's where somebody may go into a venue and then once they've left, they may not return after a certain point. But license condition may also be discretionary, so that they can be more sort of tailored to the particular kind of activities that take place at a place or in relation to a type of license, a sort of activity that might be at that venue or outlet. So LAPs can include any or all of those provisions, and they also may provide differently for different parts of the district and be applied differently to premises for which licenses of different kinds are held or sought. I can move to the next slide. I can do that. What an LAP cannot do is include policies on anything that do not directly relate to alcohol licensing. So that's an important point to make. It's not a substitute for a general alcohol harm reduction strategy or plan. It means that the focus of what we could include in any LAP must be related to alcohol licensing matters. And it means that an LAP cannot directly provide for matters such as controls on noise from live music at venues, for instance, where there are other tools available that can provide for that. And again, it means that it can't directly provide for the wider range of issues associated with alcohol-related harm, where those are not directly tied to licensing. I'll just briefly explain the process of what we must do if the council wishes to have a local alcohol policy. These are the Act requires that if a council wants to have a local alcohol policy, it must produce a draft that takes into consideration local data about the nature and severity of alcohol-related harm in the district. And it also requires that we consult with statutory consultees, so police, medical officer of health, and licensing inspectors to obtain information that we take into consideration in producing that draft. The Act also requires that when a draft has been prepared, it is then consulted on with the community using the special consultative procedure. One of the things that we are doing at the moment is engaging with community boards, but also with other stakeholder groups, and there will be further engagement that Claire will touch on in a moment. Those are pre-consultation engagement activities that the council has directed us to undertake in order to inform the development of the draft local alcohol policy. When it comes to the use of local information and take into account matters concerning the situation as it is in the district, that links to what the title of an LAP suggests, which is that it is a local alcohol policy made with information about this district and its population, which limits the extent to which we can directly replicate arrangements that are in place in other districts without knowing that that is the appropriate tool for Christchurch. So there are other districts with local alcohol policies, and we have looked at what is set out in those documents, but we still have to understand the issues in relation to our local people, our population and our setting, before we can start taking potential tools from other LAPs and applying them to any that we produce for Christchurch. I will now hand over to Claire, who will take over the agenda.
So as Philip has mentioned, we are in a process that's very prescriptive under the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act. We are required to gather three kind of types of data: police data, health data, and community perceptions data, and understanding what the issues are. We've also requested further data from other organisations where we have identified gaps in the information that has, or we are identifying gaps that have come from the information supplied to date. We ran the Life in Christchurch survey in September, which has given us a pretty good understanding of community perceptions, and that was run in our neighbourhoods survey, and we very specifically did not advertise that it had alcohol-related access and harm questions within it, because we wanted to have a baseline of understanding and have people really think about their neighbourhoods before answering the questions, so that we tried to take out the emotion, I think we'd say, and just get a good baseline of understanding across that. As Amy's going to talk to, we had over 5,000 people in Christchurch and Banks Peninsula participate in that survey, which has given us a fairly even split across the boards of participants, which Amy will show you. We've done a very comprehensive information gathering through looking at health indicators, the objectives and policies within district plans, the number and location and hours of licences and the information that we have on those licences at the moment. We've looked at alcohol bans and bylaw information. We've looked at demography of the district as well, and we're collating all of that information into a report for council, which is due to be presented early next year. As a part of the process, this early process, we have been meeting with key stakeholder groups who represent different licence types or that we know have a high interest in the process. And on the 20th, last Thursday, we asked the council to make a decision on two things. That was timeline to deliver the process of development of a local alcohol policy. And I should caveat that with, we don't know yet if we need one or if council wants one. What we are doing is the process to understand the research to determine whether we need to go forth.
That's the question. Okay. Where it's been implemented in other places like Auckland, for example, what led to them getting to that point? So what informs and their situation, for example?
Their own local police, health and community data.
So, but I'm talking about specificity within that data. So is it how many domestic incidents there are involving alcohol, how many people are admitted to hospital as a result? Is it that kind of breakdown of information that
it's alcohol-related harm, essentially.
Alcohol-related harm, okay.
Which can come in a number of different ways, shapes and forms.
Right.
Yeah, but ultimately it is an optional thing to have an LAP. So there isn't a kind of a threshold beyond which something goes off and the only action in response is to have an LAP. So there is still the element of judgment and discretion that a council may make. It may choose to respond to calls from the community or from stakeholder groups saying, we think you need to have this. It still has to go through the process of assessing the situation. So there is no obligation to have an LAP.
No things that automatically trigger it at any certain point. Yeah. Okay.
So just for a bit of background, why are we back where we are now? We tried this in 2013. Why are we trying it again? And that's essentially because the law has changed around the development of it. We no longer, back then in 2013 through to 18 when we tried the first time, the process enabled us to go into judicial review twice, once for the proposal, and then if there was one adopted, correct me, Wade, if I'm wrong, once it was adopted. We didn't get that far. Because of the High Court decision with Auckland's LAP, they have, and the process afterwards, they've now removed one of those abilities to have judicial review, so it only happens once a LAP is adopted. So that is essentially that, and then the calls from our local police leaders and our health leaders asking us to undertake the process again, which has led to the council making a decision in June to begin the process.
What were some of those things that would have triggered a judicial review or could have triggered a judicial
Wade, do you
review?
want to jump up?
Scrap with see if that's okay.
Do you want to hit the red button on that one?
Judicial review is based on process.
Yeah.
Areas essentially. So whether we place erroneous weight on certain evidence, or if we did not have evidence to establish or have a certain clause.
You had an indication that there were people that felt that that could be argued in order to trigger a judicial review in the 2013 to 18 period that this was attempted.
Yes, well, we received judicial review application, like we.
Someone actually applied
Yes, I
for
believe it
judicial-
was the
Oh, okay.
industry.
Okay.
I want to say the supermarkets, it was before my time, so I could be
Well,
wrong.
I was there on
We
council at
were
that stage. and I can't
19.
remember
There were
either.
19 objections to the last one.
Yeah, I think it was local hospitality too were involved in.
I think it was mainly around the hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
So those have now been removed essentially as,
So
Well,
we're starting again.
yeah, it used to be a very convoluted process.
Right.
You used to be able to take an issue with the NLAP to the Alcohol Regulatory and Licensing Authority.
Yeah.
And then their decision could also be judicially reviewed.
right,
And would be tied into it as a party of that as well. Now it's much more streamlined in that the ALA step is removed. So it's essentially to the High Court now. So there is still a risk of judicial review.
okay, that's what I wanted
But-
to clarify is that there is still that risk.
Yeah, if we
Okay.
get it, there's more certainty now following the Auckland Supreme Court decision. They set out the test quite clearly. So there's more certainty around what we need
This is
to
a
do.
precedent.
Yes, exactly right. So that risk should be diminished, and we are acutely aware of the interest something like this brings. So we are working hard to get the process dead right.
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Thanks. So in this, sorry, going back, the decision that council made on the 20th of November was that they supported and endorsed staff recommendation to have a whole of council hearings panel if we get to the point that we have a draft to consult on. They also determined the timeline to deliver and when we next report back to them, which will be in the new year when we put forth the research report and the issues and options paper of what that research is telling us. So we'll get a decision then on how fast or how slow we run the process. Staff have recommended that we deliver it before the elections, the process, but that's ultimately the council's decision. As a part of the process, we have proposed that there's 3 phases of engagement to enable it to be a robust process. The first one we're undertaking now, seeing you as part of that. The Life in Christchurch survey was another part of it, and we have been meeting with key stakeholder groups who represent the wider licensing groups or those that have a high interest in the process, including the police and the medical officer of health. We will collate all of that information and present it in the new year. The second phase, if we get remit from council to continue the process once they understand what the issues and options are, is to actually consult with the wider public on those options to get an understanding and to test those ideas of what would be appetite to move forward into a draft policy. And then that third phase is a special consultative process pending council approval to consult on a draft policy itself, which staff have recommended if we go with option 1, which has been put forward, we could achieve that in May or June next year. And both of those options will provide plenty of opportunity for the public to participate. As part of that, I am interested to understand if this community board has appetite for, in phase 2, holding or hosting a community workshop to understand and test those ideas. So if that's something of interest, please do let me know at the end.
Yes, I think we would absolutely.
100%?
Yep.
Great. Love to hear that. So this is the proposed timeline. I'll just go over quickly that we put forward, which a decision will be made on in the new year by council. The preferred option there from staff recommendation is to complete the process and have the hearings in July. And then know before elections whether we're going to adopt a local alcohol policy or not. The 2 other options give them pause points to consider, where we could pause and then defer consultation and decision on a local alcohol policy until after elections. I just want to cover the community board's role in this process, as it's a citywide and Banks Peninsula-wide process. We really need you to be the local knowledge. we need you to promote the opportunities for the community to participate as and when they arise and encourage their participation. As I've just discussed, really keen for you to host, if you have the appetite to do some sort of event or meetings or workshop with your local community when the time comes. But most importantly, use all of that information in those conversations that you may have with your community members to submit on the proposals as a community board, that you have the opportunity to do that as it's a citywide project. Please note, though, that your councillors that are on your board may choose not to participate in those opportunities because they have determined to be in all of council hearings panel. They need to make sure that they keep themselves impartial in order to keep themselves in that, be able to be in that position. So they may choose not to participate in those additional activities, and that's okay.
Can I just ask around that, what is it about them being involved that would suggest that it could be affecting their impartiality?
It would be, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. It's purely around their involvement submission on something they're going to make a decision on. So if they were involved with the submission and improving the submission to
there would be no, sorry to interrupt because I do understand that, but there'd be no problem with them being involved and interacting in community workshops and things.
Listening.
Yes, that's right. But yeah, no, that I understand that about the submission. Great. Thank you.
No, absolutely. In a listening capacity, absolutely fine. But they don't be surprised if they don't form an opinion, because that if they publicly showed an opinion one way or the other, that could create a perception of bias.
We're often reminded of that anyway. So yeah, we think,
we'll just put it in there again.
No, fair enough. Yeah.
I'm now going to hand over to Amy, who's going to go through the Life in Christchurch survey results for your board area.
Thank you. So as Claire said, we ran this survey in late August, September, most of September. And we're going to quickly work through the results for this board area in the next few minutes. If you want the citywide results, they're available in the briefing papers from the 5th of November Council information session. You may notice that there's not many numbers in here, and that's because we are still working through the analysis. So this is just a very high level overview for you. That report that Claire's mentioned a few times has a lot more detail and will be published in the new year after it's been out for external peer review as well. So still working through all of the analysis, but we wanted to give you a bit of a flavour of what's been said.
And what you're saying today is this, it's public, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So this is just a quick breakdown. This is the only numbers you will see in this presentation today of where the responses came from. You can see up there we actually got a really good spread across all of the board areas, and particularly the urban ones were all relatively within a few percentage of each other. To give you a bit of context, a representative sample for the whole of Christchurch is 770 people. So we're happy with these numbers. We far exceeded what we would get from that. And some of the information. So access and control. We asked people who completed the survey a range of questions around access and control, and overall we heard that there's a desire from communities in this board area to have more of a say on decisions made about licensed premises in their local neighbourhoods. Generally, there's a level of agreement that alcohol is too easy to get a hold of in Christchurch and neighbourhoods within the board area, and that more harm occurs in areas where there are more places to purchase alcohol. Less than a third of respondents from this board area agreed that the current rules, regulations and restrictions are adequate for addressing alcohol-related. So we also asked them about where they think that harm occurs, and you can see on the left in the green box the range of places that we tested. Respondents tended to agree that alcohol-related harm occurs across the various locations they were asked about, but the degree of harm varied quite a bit. 2/3 thought that a moderate amount of harm occurs in private residences, so at home where drinking is largely unregulated and uncontrolled. Respondents reported that a moderate amount happens at public events, in public spaces and pubs, bars and nightclubs in their local neighbourhoods, and just remembering that this is within this board area specifically. And they told us that little or no harm occurs at restaurants and cafes, and that has been a bit of a trend both in the citywide results as well and across most of the other board areas. Restaurants and cafes are seen as a place which is important for community connection and socialising, and that generally less harm happens there.
So are the other ones on par with other areas as well?
I would say yours overall, there's probably slightly less harm reported in some of those places than there are in other areas of the city, which again is not necessarily surprising. There's a lot of variables that can feed into that, and the research report will unpack that a little bit more as well with some of the other information that we have. So there's a little bit of variance, but overall it's relatively similar.
Just looking at that first one, so it says that around a third think a lot in private, another third think moderate. So it would be clear to understand that that is the major area of concern is in private residences, right?
And that has been consistent across all of them.
Yeah, right, okay.
And that's off license. Sales.
So we asked respondents about a range of issues and the impact that drinking directly has on whether these occur in their local neighbourhoods. The tables that you can see are from statistical testing that looked at the frequency at which the respondents reported the issues in their neighbourhood compared to all other wards across the city. So just bear that in mind when we move through this. This isn't just comparing them to the wards within your ward area, it's all wards across the city. The more arrows next to an issue, the stronger the statistical relationship was. So in terms of the central ward, there are respondents who live in there are statistically more likely to report that many of the issues frequently or occasionally occur in their neighbourhood as a result of drinking. And if you think about the central city and some of the differences with the city and some of the other areas of the city and even this board, that's probably not too surprising. Innes, much less to see here. So respondents from the Innes ward were slightly less likely to report litter as being an issue in their neighbourhood, although Innes respondents were slightly less, and they were, well, that doesn't make sense. So they were less likely to report that litter is frequently an issue in their local neighbourhood and less likely to report that physical violence and assault is never an issue. So less likely to report that it happens frequently, but on the flip side with the physical violence, they're less likely to report that it never occurs. So somewhere in the middle there. And Papanui, literally nothing to see here. So there wasn't any statistically significant relationships between respondents in the Papanui ward and the rate at which they reported those issues occurring as a direct result of drinking when compared to the other wards. So they were neither more or less likely to report that they happened at any particular frequency.
So in the Innes ward, are you saying that there were all those issues that were raised for the central ward, none of those were raised as part of the Innes?
They may have been raised, but they were not statistically more or less likely to raise them than people from other areas.
We're just dealing with some issues in the ward at the moment, so I'm surprised to hear that, although I guess those weren't the people who were involved. Okay.
Just out of interest, so the reporting of no violence coming from alcohol, will they be put up against the data that you receive from the police?
Correct.
So we can sort out perception and reality.
Yeah. So that research report
behind closed doors.
Yeah. That research report essentially pulls all the threads together and tells that story. So this is one part of it and it's an important part of it, but it's not the only. Cool. We asked them about the number of licensed premises in their local neighbourhoods, and the feedback from the respondents in this board area essentially suggests that they feel that the current number of licensed premises in their neighbourhoods is about right, although there was some that said there were too many places where alcohol could be purchased and taken away, and that is that, again, off licence, and you can see it reflected in the where harm occurs results as well. There wasn't a great appetite for more licensed premises in their local neighbourhoods either, except for places where alcohol can be purchased and consumed on site with a meal. So those are your restaurants and cafes where generally they don't think that much harm happens there. That question was only asked of those who said that there was about the right number. So it was testing, if there's about the right number, would you like to see more pop up? We asked them around community facilities and whether they should be restricted from operating close to whether licensees should be restricted from how close they can operate some of those facilities. And there was general agreement from the majority that bottle stores and pubs, bars and nightclubs should have restrictions on how close they can operate to some facilities. The ones that those respondents picked out for us were early childhood educations and schools, so both primary and secondary schools, medical and rehab facilities and hospitals, and parks, playgrounds and sports facilities. And finally, we asked them about the hours of the licensed premises in their neighbourhood as well, and respondents from this board area tended to be split about whether the hours were about right or too long. Most thought that the hours were too long for social, sport and sports clubs and small grocery and convenience stores. Supermarket hours, they thought they were about right, and it was around half of respondents. And many of the comments we received on this, the open-ended feedback, raised concerns around the sale of alcohol early in the morning, and that consistently came from most areas of the city as well.
Did anything come up about online delivery of alcohol, the sort of Uber Eats type thing?
Less so in the survey, and probably because we didn't ask.
Okay.
But it's certainly something that we've been doing, and has come up in some of those stakeholder meetings as well.
It has, it's also a national discussion across a lot of councils and a lot of people that work in the advocacy industry around remote sales and access to alcohol through those. I think if I give my personal opinion of what we're hearing, people would like to see it dealt with at a national level.
Could that be done through, oh, so that wouldn't be through a LAP, which would be a local way of addressing it, so it could be legislation.
So I'll give you an example of why there's a sentiment towards it to be done nationally, is because right now under the national legislation, if someone gets a liquor license for Auckland, they can deliver in Christchurch.
From a building in Christchurch, so as long as the licensed premise, so the computer that deals with the money is based in Auckland,
Okay.
that's fine, and you can have as many storage facilities around the country with alcohol in it to deliver from as you like. That's how the legislation is interpreted currently.
And that's probably not the intention, right?
Well, that interpretation comes from a ALA decision from 2012. So I think it's probably right back in 2012,
Right.
but the distance we've come technology-wise in the last 10 years,
Yeah.
I don't think you can read the Act with the same lens you would 10 years ago. There's a different sort of policy overview of it now.
Or 30 years ago. It was around when I was at university and it caused trouble.
Yeah, but not the delivery of it, not the
Yeah.
the Uber Eats type thing.
Yeah, we used to have it delivered at university.
What the hell?
Oh, yeah.
You just had to bring up an order.
Yeah, you just had to
It
ring
might
up
just
and
be a
they'd
bit
bring-
commercial now.
I mean, we were so well known, they'd ring us at about 11 o'clock and say, now, we're closing.
I was probably studying. Probably studying.
Okay, so just finally, to recap our next steps as a project group, and I probably should have mentioned that we're only 4 of about 10. We'll continue to analyse the data and we'll report back in the new year to the council on, as we said, the collation of all of that statistical data, the perception data, to share what we see to be the key issues and options identified for testing. Pending council approval, we'll then test them and move into further community engagement on the subject. That brings us to the end of the presentation, I believe. I'll just check the slides, and we are right at time, but I'll just check in with Emma if there's any time for questions or if anyone had any questions.
Yeah, if anyone's got any questions, I'm sure we can.
I've just got one. So there must be some, like putting all your data together and things like that. You must come up with sort of the perfect situation that would, if it in place, it would reduce harm. The sort of optimum,
That's the
time.
ultimate goal.
So that is
to
the-
support reduction of harm. Yep.
Yeah, so, so based on research and things like that, you will be coming up with this, at this level, you're okay, at this level will reduce harm, and this level harm will continue to be raised. I mean,
I think at the moment we are, I don't think we have a vision of the future in which there is, in which the LAP in which an LAP, if it is there, does X, Y, and Z. At the moment, we're still very much focused on determining or defining what the problem is that we're looking to address, because the council needs to be given the opportunity to decide on the grounds of the information that we have received, and taking account of and that includes taking account of the community preferences we've received, as well as the stats. Council needs to be comfortable that there is a problem that requires solving through an LAP, and that hasn't definitively happened yet. So our focus at the moment is very much on what are the issues, so that we can support the council to discuss. Okay, these are the issues, and would an LAP be the appropriate solution for that before we proceed to what and indeed if we would proceed to what an LAP should contain and how it should be calibrated.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Just, I think everyone on the board would agree that we would like to be involved as much as we can, especially in being involved in those community meetings and workshops and things, so that we can best represent our communities' ideas and feedback. So yeah, we look forward to working with you on that.
Thank you.
So, and I've just got one more question about your stakeholders. So your main stakeholders, do they, like what sort of community groups are involved in those?
So that comes in phase 2.
No. I mean, what stakeholders? So, for example, let's say Aviva. So you would consider that some of your organisations, you'd have a stakeholder in there that is involved in family violence as a major stakeholder.
Yes. So we've got a stakeholder database at the moment that's currently over 600 of those kind of organisations and community groups, residents groups, community associations, business associations, and we've been actively communicating an update with them. In the later phases, we'll be asking for more active participation. When I say we've been meeting with key stakeholders, we've been meeting with those who represent our licensed groups, police, medical officer of health, Hospitality New Zealand, where there's high stakes for all of them in the process.
High stakes
for community as well, yeah. We met with Salvation Army the other day as well to have a discussion with them, and we are actively seeking out what are the existing mechanisms that are available for us to continue to communicate through. So where are the existing organisations who come together already in a forum, and where are those forums that we could access, as and when we have remit to do that. So if we look at collectively of all of the organisations, the groups and the licensees, we're over 1,200 right now of people that we are communicating.
And so how many of the sellers, like, do you know a percentage between
just over 50%
the sort of sellers and the ones that make money from I think we need to be a little bit careful about how we label them. So there are some that make money essentially off it, but we also have license holders who are sports clubs, who are primarily sports clubs. You work in men's clubs where people come to socially connect as well. So I think we do need to be careful about how we label different types of licenses. You also have supermarkets who also provide 44,000 other products within that space as well. So we've got to be a little bit careful around
sounding too judgy.
Yeah, exactly. But you're right, we need to engage with all of those community groups as well.
I'm not being judging on them, I'm just separating out those
that
are winning from alcohol and those that are losing from alcohol.
I would, we've got just over 700 licensee holders, and we've got over 1,200 stakeholders on the list at the moment. We also have a mechanism that anybody can sign up to be on that through, if you go to ccc.gov.nz/local alcohol policy, we have a self-sign up form where anyone that's interested that we might not have on the list can automatically sign up as well.
You're going to see a spike now that you live in those areas.
As I said, be the voice of your community and share it with your networks. Absolutely.
Well, just one last question. The Victoria Residents Association
Yes.
is on it.
Yes, they are.
Great.
Yes, and we have received the data and we are looking at it as well.
Well, I mean, that's a great case for, they've been through it. So if there's anyone who knows the process and things well enough, it is them.
A lot of people do, a lot of people.
Well, they as a community went through it though.
Great. Thank you very much for coming along. Appreciate
Thank you very
it.
much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Right next to you, Linda's rating. We have, online. This one?
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Excellent. So Mark had mentioned he'd be happy to move my slides on. Are you good to do that?
Yeah, all good.
Awesome, thank you. So, okay, so thanks for being available today. I'm actually, I would have liked to be there in person, but I'm down in New Brighton already because I'm presenting to Waitai at 5:30. So as I said, my name is Jack Chester. I'm from the Urban Regen team, and the focus of today that I'm going to talk to you about is the Linwood Regeneration Project and the framework for the project that we've shaped up after a lot of research and discussions with staff across council and people already working in the community. Next slide. So to explain the origins of this work, we know that Linwood needs our support. There's both strategic direction and technical information which signals the need for council to do something in this area. So some of the key factors here are the Greater Christchurch Spatial Plan. So what this has done is identify the Eastern Regeneration Area. So that's the area that's the green oval on the map there as a priority area within the wider sub-region. So as the diagram shows, Linwood's located to the western end of this priority area. And in recognising this wider eastern priority area by the GSP, it's basically showing that there's a range of issues going on in this location. And that these issues require support from multiple agencies. That was the rationale between anywhere that the GCP are identifying as a priority area. In terms of our work programs at council, the Otatahi Christchurch Planning Programme, which is identifying our local area planning going forward, has identified Linwood as well as the specific city growth and property activity plan. Next slide, please. So moving on to the good stuff, we recognise that Linwood's got many of the correct ingredients which make up a vibrant and flourishing neighbourhood. So I've highlighted some of these on the slide, won't be a surprise to you all. It's a fabulous location in terms of proximity to the central city. There's actually a decent amount of green space. So there's parks, reserves, not without their issues, but in total there is a good amount there. In terms of the assets, the new college there, relatively new college, enrolments over 1,000 students now, and the new pool that we've developed there is really popular with the community. The last little category there is about the development potential of Linwood. So this is, imagine yourself an investor or somebody looking to do something in Christchurch. Linwood ticks a lot of the boxes in terms of high density zoning, proximity to public transport. There's already wide roads, larger sections and some affordable land values. So that's the good stuff. Moving on to the challenges in the next slide. So in doing this piece of work, we started to look at the challenges using and build the framework for the project using what we call the Great Neighbourhoods Assessment Tool. So this is something the Urban Regen team have used in other area plans, and it basically uses 5 themes to assess an area and recognise both the strengths and the weaknesses in that neighbourhood. So you can see the different colours are basically the 5 themes. So I'm going to highlight now some of the areas that are scoring poorly as a means that we can start looking at to build a project going forward. So working from the top, secure and thriving land uses is essentially the economic well-being of the area. And the low score here is primarily due to the commercial centre, so that's the Eastgate Mall, performing poorly. It was given a score at 4 out of 10 by Property Economics in 2023 and had a 12% vacancy rate. So one of our poorest performing centres across the city. Moving on to the teal area to the right-hand side. So, what's that, sorry?
No, that was me. I'm sorry, some audio came up on my phone.
Oh, okay, cool. In terms of the teal area, this one's got a focus on community, and the poor scoring here is largely due to Linwood's identity often being associated with negative perceptions of the neighbourhood. So things like crime, we were just talking about the alcohol issues, a lot of social housing, which has some people concerned about that, proliferation of fast food outlets, and concerns by the community about safety. Blue area there is housing. So that actually recognises that there's been significant growth in multi-unit development across Linwood, which has brought some issues of its own. But the area as a whole still offers a lot of scope for more investment, as there's the area of high density zoning, and there's also a market for social or shared ownership type opportunities in the area. The purple and pink area at the bottom is all about connectivity and travel. And this is largely due to the poor pedestrian and cycle connectivity across the neighbourhood, but particularly around the centre and across Linwood Avenue. You might recall there was some work done under the Healthy Streets initiative, and Linwood was actually prioritised as somewhere for funding here, but unfortunately the funding here was lost. So this whole area of work remains a priority. And then finally, flourishing natural environment. The poor score here is really as a result of the condition of the Linwood Canal, which runs right through the neighbourhood. Although it should also be noted that whilst we've got a lot of parks and public open space, there's a lot more scope for improvements in terms of people using these spaces and how comfortable they feel in them. Next slide, please. So whilst the framework has been built around these 5 themes, we've also begun to think about project outcomes, focus locations, and the tools that we'd like to use to achieve the outcomes. So basically the what, the where, and the how. Just before I move on to demonstrating some thoughts around those, I just wanted to note that the outputs that I'll have put down are just the council levers. So whilst there are a lot of challenges in Linwood, many of these are outside the remit of our work, but by identifying them, it gives us an in terms of the conversations we'll be having with the other agencies at the sub-regional level. And the hope is that these agencies will be pushed to deliver on some of the matters that can influence in this neighbourhood. In terms of the budgets, our budget for the work is really limited and has been exacerbated by things like the withdrawal of Crown funding for some of the transport initiatives in the area. So again, it means that whilst the conversations with the Greater Christchurch partners might bring along more significant opportunities longer term, our short-term focus will be on using existing budgets, development contributions, and our staff time innovatively, along with potentially identifying budgets for the next LTP in terms of any more game-changing, bigger move projects that come forward. And finally, in terms of the where, at the moment, the project is based more loosely on the Linwood neighbourhood, so it's obviously crossing both the community board areas. As we begin to get into the project, do some early engagement and more work on these themes and projects, will help narrow down the spatial extent of some of these outcomes. So some will probably be based on particular sites, where others, more theme-based ones, will have broader aims and will need to spatially target the locations of these. Next slide, please. So this slide here gives you an example of the framework. This one focuses on the natural environment, and you can see it's split into the 3 columns: the what, the why, the where we're going to do it, and how we're going to do it. So in terms of this theme about the natural environment, you can see there are some shorter term opportunities relating to projects along the canal. Some park improvements. There's a new concept plan for Linwood Park, and some SEPTED work is commencing early next year that we'd like to feed into, and some planting initiatives. Longer term opportunities we've considered so far include improving the connections between residential areas and the green spaces around the area, particularly including the river corridor to the north. There's a lot going in there in terms of recreational facilities, and it's actually less than 1 kilometre from the Linwood Centre, but because of the way the streets are aligned up there and the lack of wayfinding, you don't feel like it's a particularly easy connection to make. So potentially doing some streetscape improvements, providing some of this wayfinding will improve the livability of neighbourhoods and even sort of their attraction to developers looking to take on some projects in that area. Next slide, please. So the focus of this theme, which was secure and thriving land uses, the primary focus here for this one was Eastgate Mall. As I referred to earlier, it's been struggling a lot, but the really good news here, which you're probably all aware of, is that new owners have recently been announced. It was for sale for quite a while. Willis and Bond have great success in quality mixed-use schemes, so they're the new owners. We hope we believe that there's potential for us to work with them, both in terms of longer term development, maybe adding a mixed use element, but also hopefully in terms of some short term amenity and space activation. So this project's particularly timely. We've been waiting for a long time to have some opportunity on that side. Next slide, please. So the third theme is about community. Like I mentioned earlier, it's one of the most challenging issues around the Linwood neighbourhood. So the social issues, both perceived actually and real, have long been an issue for the area, and they affect both the immediate community, but also they hinder some of the opportunities that the area offers in terms of investment, or even we've heard that residents are unwilling to use the assets such as the park because of safety fears. So it's a hugely complex issue and particularly relevant to the conversations we'll be having with the GCP partners, given that their remit was to be addressing the complex issues which need to have a multi-agency approach. But in the meantime, at a council level, we'll be continuing to have our conversations with those developing community projects in the area and helping build a picture of the positive opportunities, build on some of the projects you already know about, the Weaving the East going on, and a lot of the Linwood Canal placemaking activities. Next slide, please. So this one is about connectivity, as I said. So we know about the accessibility issues around the mall. We know that we will try and push for improvements around the accessibility. And again, there's those wider opportunities to improve connections between both of the river corridors, actually, the Heathcote to the south and the one to the north, and looking at particularly in terms of North Linwood there. So the final theme, next slide, please, is housing. As I mentioned, there's been strong multi-unit growth in pockets of Linwood, but there's a lot more opportunity to do more development, and particularly broaden the range of housing outcomes. Exploring the potential of that corridor could help instigate some more housing, the wider range of rental or social housing. And there's also the potential that the big block at Eastgate with the huge car park that's very underutilised, there's even opportunity to potentially sleeve some housing down there as well. Just to note, in terms of the high density zoning, the decisions next week will be coming out on how much high density zoning there is around the Linwood Centre. So the decisions will be made on Monday about that. Next slide, please. So in terms of partnerships and funding, the project's going to involve partnerships right across council and externally, and will build and complement the other work in the East. So conversations about the Eastern Regeneration Priority Area will include agencies such as Kainga Ora, Whakatahi, the DHB, the Ministry of Housing and Business. And like I said, the complexity of the issues there mean their involvement is going to be crucial. In terms of funding, we will need to adopt a multifaceted approach to funding or delivery. And like I said, there might be some quick wins from existing budgets, and then opportunities for longer term funding to come through the next LTP. Just to say, in terms of the funding from these external agencies, you'll all be aware that a lot of those organisations have recently had their budgets and their work programmes slashed. So things are likely to be challenging in that respect as well. Next slide, please. Well, this slide just aims to illustrate the process in terms of our conversations going forward and the future work in Linwood. So it really shows that we will continue with our approach. We'll be responsible for this, but all the findings and the information that they were gathering and the project ideas will be fed up to the Greater Christchurch Partnership, and the conversations that they're having will be part of as well. The final slide, in terms of the next steps that we're proposing for this project, once we've got the feedback from both the community boards, the plan is to brief council in an information session. We'll build on the conversations we've already had and establish a more formal cross-council project team, including staff from areas like parks, transport, Three Waters, community development, and then we'll begin to develop the project plans for each of the themes. Like I say, a key aim will be looking at existing projects which are being conceived, have funding for the area, and thinking about them a little bit more holistically, as there's opportunities to make connections between these projects or add some value to some of the existing things that are happening. So that's the early steps really in our ideas here. So we'd be I'm really keen to hear your thoughts on it.
Thanks, Jack. That sounds really exciting, seeing that information. Ellie, any question?
Yeah, I'm glad the figure was there, and I did see it in the stuff before about the in the material provided about the low tree canopy cover. I mean, that's probably the lowest out of all of the areas in the city, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is the lowest.
It's starkly obvious too when you're looking at Google Earth. Actually, you can just see how. I'm just wondering whether there is any specific focus on improving that, or is that just through the canal planting and stuff that you've mentioned? There's no large scale focus on that?
Well, the idea for these green corridors, where I was talking about the connections up from Linwood Centre up towards the river corridor to the north, some of those streets all through there, which are zoned, well, about half of them zoned for high density at the moment. They're really wide. And so we do have an opportunity to think about putting some planting in those streets, which would work really well if they are the areas that we're going to get a lot more multi-unit development in, which, you know, they won't have their own gardens. So tree canopy cover in those areas is particularly important. So that's one of the projects that we'd like to look at going forward, yes.
Okay, great, good to hear, thank you.
John, you got a question?
Yes, thank you. Hey, it's good to see this coming together. I heard recently that this is one of the highest deprivation counts, not just in Christchurch, but in New Zealand. My question is, where's Linwood? Yeah, in the context of this project, does Linwood, are there clearly defined boundaries?
No, it's blurred at the moment. Looking at it as a kind of neighbourhood approach. And that's what I meant in terms of some of these themes. What we will have to spatially focus at some point. But at the moment, we've sort of taken a step back. And if we're thinking about connections between places and linking it through, then at this point, it's broader. It will be narrowed down. So, yeah, not as far as Linwood Village, but yeah, pretty wide at the moment.
Yep, that's fine. It's just to give me some perspective and scope. Thank you.
Okay.
Cool. Any more questions, Emma?
A question sort of, or like I thought I'd like your response to. As John said, the area is of high deprivation. So in the project, the word, equitable outcomes is hot on hot off people's tongues as well, to ensure that the project just doesn't try and improve the area, that it has to take it that one step further. It has to, you know, it has to have another step on it due to the last 40 years. So does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. And I mean, I'll say that Linwood has been one of the council projects that, you know, it's been on the books for a long time because of the complexity of the issues here. The reason that it was prioritised by the regen team was based on all the heat map work about these issues and the deprivation and the socioeconomic issues. So that's why we're focusing on it. And we will try and use as many levers as council have in that respect. But I think it's very important and it's very timely that at the sub-regional level and with these other agencies around the table looking at it now, hopefully there's a bit more clout in terms of getting some of these issues looked at.
Excellent, thank you.
Great. I think that's all the questions. So thank you very much for that, Jack. We'll look forward to working with you going forward on this. Obviously, the most of the area you're talking about is not in our board area. Obviously, we're just that corner. So yeah, we look forward to seeing how this develops. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Right, so we're now going to move on to our submissions workshop. But we're going to finish the live stream. Right. Okay, yep, let's go. Okay, we don't have any councillors left, do we? No, good. So Mark has done up a draft, which is probably our best starting point. So we'll start with the transport one. Hopefully everyone has had a look at that. There's not a lot of new things in there, just because the draft plan kind of seems to have pulled a lot of different council stuff together into one plan.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the draft that he did. I just saw the document. So
no, he's only just done this today.
Oh, okay. All right.
Put in your feedback, Ellie, and just pull through the questions, the tick boxes. That
okay.
Submission form. Yep.
Okay.
So maybe we just want to run through this. So we've got the vision.
You wish to be running through the tick boxes and ticks?
I wanted to raise a few things around the vision, actually. I think it's really unexciting.
So do I. Did I send my things in? Oh, did it?
I think the thing that concerned me the most about the vision, it talks about vibrancy and being prosperous and climate resilient, but there's nothing there about the ease of getting around. I know it says that in the next bit underneath, but I think it's got to be, I mean, the whole point of a transport system is to transport. And I just don't think that's strong enough in it myself. I know it says it underneath, it shapes and connects and all of that, and enables everyone to move around safely and easily, but I think that's actually got to be the main thing. The whole point of a transport system is to move people around safely and easily.
Yeah, in my stuff I had the fact that it was missing the word people, moving people.
I think it's also you've got to be able to move freight. A transport system enables you to move people and freight and other things. I mean, because we don't have rail. But yeah, I don't know what everyone else thinks, but I just thought it was very yawning.
There's a whole moving freight policy or plan in place as well.
Yeah, but it's got to be a part of this.
Transport system is essential to a more vibrant, prosperous and climate resilient district. It shapes and connects Okatahi, Christchurch and Banks Peninsula and enables everyone to move around safely and easily. Surely that last bit's alluding to it.
Yes, but I think it needs to be moved up. I think the transport system, the key to the transport system is being able to move people and things around safely and easily. I mean, that's not the right wording, but it's the whole point of a transport system. And then when you can do that, it creates the vibrancy in the prosperous and climate resilient district. I just think that's all virtue signalling stuff at the top, and it's actually about.
So even if they swap those two sentences around.
Sorry, what's the Wi-Fi password?
I don't use it. I'm connected to the Christchurch one. I've been kicked off too. There's a free Christchurch one. Have you got that one? Have a look at what's
Just
available.
for your CCC email.
No, it doesn't work. No, it doesn't work for me.
So what for CCC staff?
Yeah.
So what is my username?
You,
Me.
your email. Thanks. So the board suggests swapping the two sentences around. And prioritising moving around safely and easily.
Yeah, I do think you need, I don't know how you put freight, but it's not just
No,
about.
I don't think freight needs to be in the vision. It's all part of it. It's saying enabling everyone to move around safely and easily. Everyone includes trucks on the roads, cars on the roads.
Change people to everyone then. Key to the transport system is being able to move everyone around.
Well, it should be everyone, not people.
And the first sentence, Mark,
Sorry.
that's right, to move everyone around safely and easily.
Even just take out that first bit, Mark, leave the board suggestion to back to the vision. Yeah. You're good with that, Simon and John?
Yep, fine by me.
Yep, I think so. Just waiting for that.
Oh, and then even put the vibrancy and prosperity will come as a result of that.
The vibrancy, the prosperity and climate resilience will flow from there. Do you think we need to have effective?
We want that wouldn't necessarily happen. I mean,
Sure, to flow from that.
but we do want it to flow from that.
That's the vision, I think, John.
Yeah. Oh, true. If it's a vision, then
Yeah.
we can say it will. Yeah. Sorry.
We also need an effective transport system. Can we say moving everyone around safely, effectively and easily? It's got to be effective.
Isn't that covered by easily?
No, not necessarily. I mean, it might be easy to move around, but it might be crappy from a climate perspective or something. So the effectiveness of it covers a whole lot of stuff. But again, it might not be needed. It's just my thing.
It's described in the board plan, so hopefully it's.
Did we make any mention of, and I know you get sick of me saying this, but about rail at that stage? Now, we advocate strongly for active transport modes and networks to support walking and cycling. I mean,
Public transport, including rail.
yeah, so we have
rail.
to say including rail, because public transport in the current narrative basically means buses.
Or even put including rail and MRT.
I'm just on that vision. I've got a thing about the word vibrant. I think it's overused. My suggestion was something like moving people is central to our transport system and its success contributes to the well-being, prosperity and sustainability of our city.
I like well-being.
Well, that brings in the fact, we do have people living who can't afford cars and then it's their only way of actually being able to move around the city.
I think you put a whole lot of words in there. I don't mind
It's only the
vibrancy.
vision, it's not,
Yeah.
I don't think we want to go.
I think we assume that well-being is a key part of prosperity, actually. I don't think you can have one without the other.
Well-being can be forgotten in the context of prosperity.
Yeah.
I think we can't say we have to say, then the sentence has got to start vibrancy, prosperity, and climate resilience.
And it's more than climate resilience. I mean,
I hate that phrase. It's
it's sustainability. It's not just about climate, it's about the resources.
I agree with
Well,
you.
But
Vibrancy.
in the context of this plan, it is about the resilience of the infrastructure.
Yeah, but that doesn't say that. That's the phrase climate resilience has come to mean anything and everything. I mean, you're talking about vibrancy, prosperity, and the ability to manage resilience to climate change. That's what it should say. That's what it actually means. Manage or address or, oh yeah, ability to manage resilience to climate change. I mean, it might be pedantic, but climate resilience just means nothing to me.
Well, then after prosperity, do we want to put people's well-being and ability?
well, see, prosperity comes into well-being.
I think it's good to emphasise, though, I really like well-being in there. I wouldn't put people's well, because it is the inference is that it's well-being of people. You're not suggesting all dogs are well-being, of their well-being, but, and you could say well-being, vibrancy, prosperity, well-being, and managing resilience to climate change. Are we? Or successfully managing resilience to climate change?
Too late for that.
I'm going to punch you in the nose before Christmas.
What a new nose. Hang on, when am I coming around for wine?
Right, so that's
I've got one in my car. See, there it is again, though. The Borders Police see reference to the relevance of a climate resilient district. What the hell does that mean?
we're just referencing what the plan says.
Yeah, I know, but it still doesn't make it right. I mean, the Borders Police see reference to the importance of managing our resilience to climate change.
But in a vision, it's okay to have that thing, isn't it? Not just to say it's important to manage it. What it did say.
It doesn't mean anything though, John.
Oh, I think in that sentence it did. Resilience to climate, a district that has resilience to climate change is exactly that.
I don't think that's what it said though. What did it say before? Sorry, Mark, you had it there. What was the
Oh, did it say that? Reference to the relevance of.
Yeah, it's taking it straight from the.
It's just nonsense. Always pleased to see. I preferred what you put back in actually, but that's just me.
To me, it means the same thing. You can change it back to what Ellie said.
Pleased to see reference.
But yeah, I'm just saying I think it means the same thing. You're just not using that phrase that you don't like.
Yeah, importance of managing. Yeah.
Well, you could say that managing, we're happy to see reference to the extent or something or other that the transport systems do.
But this is only commenting on the vision. So we're specifically commenting
an umbrella
on a couple of sentences.
You want to
we can come back to that.
Yeah.
I just go back to mine. I quite like it. Moving people is central. We could just write, can you please change it to moving people is central to our transport system and its success contributes to the well-being, prosperity and sustainability of our city.
I prefer that too, but that's. Anyway, the board refers to its war plan for this term as outlining its prioritisation.
Yeah, my feedback from community and so forth is that word resilient in Christchurch has just done its dash. People don't want to see it.
Yeah, I think it had done its dash just at the end of Leanne's
Yeah,
run, actually.
yeah.
That next bit.
It's right through all the documentation.
Oh, it is.
So, the board appreciates strategy that support it to continue to engage with the community on local transport issues and see it. The council might take a measure for that. Oh, I think we can make that a bit simpler, can't we? It's a hell of a long sentence. The board appreciates a strategy that supports it to engage with our community on local transport issues, full stop. We support the council and relevant partners taking a measured, big picture view including the impacts, including of the impacts of intensification, when considering transport challenges in our community. Does that work? Yeah, it's shorter. Okay. Everyone happy with that?
Yep.
Right, strategic challenges and equitable transit. What does that mean? An equitable transition to a low emissions transport system. What is an equitable transition? Would someone explain that, please? And I'm not being annoying. I just wanted, what does that mean?
I think that it's ensuring that all people
Have access
to a transport system that we're going, that's got lower emissions.
But is it talking about the transition itself means that it's equitable? Is that what that says?
Maybe it means, sorry.
What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think it's along the lines of what Emma just said, that it's, we could not in a transition to a low emissions transport system is not such that it's only available for a few or that's just too expensive to use or whatever. It's an equitable transition.
I mean, electric cars are a fine, example of it. And those that can afford them can have them.
Okay, and if that's obvious to you guys, that's great. Okay. Adapting the transport network to change climate, managing growth well as our population increases. Managing growth well. Oh, those can't be changed. Those are the
No, that's what's in the plan.
Yeah, the green is the,
Yeah.
and the black's the, what we're looking at.
rather subjective. Reducing deaths, okay, but the assumption, okay. So reasonable, would seeks to ensure that.
I had two more challenges that I felt missing from those. And the first one was providing a transport system that considers and promotes health and social connection. And the other one that I feel is really missing is providing a transport system that receives high levels of travel satisfaction.
Yeah, it's good to state that. It's bloody common sense, really, isn't it?
Well, it is, but I mean, that should be, we know enough around this table to know the average person doesn't have the same knowledge about transport that we do, or the understanding of how much it affects people's lives.
Yeah. I don't think it's about the strategic challenges, Mark. I think it is, the board considers that it is important to provide a transport system that promotes health and social connection. That's what you're saying, isn't it? So the board considers that it is key to provide a transport system that promotes health and social challenges. Have I interpreted that right, Emma?
Well, I think they should be highlighted as issues.
It's the additional challenges.
Oh, is that what, I'm
identified.
sorry, I
Yeah.
misunderstood what you were saying. Okay, so I beg your pardon, Mark, you had
To say
that
the
right,
board,
yeah. Considers it as a,
board sees two more challenges that need to be considered,
right,
and then put the two of them
okay.
that need to be addressed.
Okay.
First one is providing a transport system. Yeah.
Let's change that next, but that's what really too, it wasn't so significant that there isn't. Okay. I would just continue with the board also believes there must be more focus on the strategic challenge.
Yeah, just get rid of that, but yeah.
Restriction related to the amount of freight and heavy traffic on our roads. I don't think you need that next.
No, just leave it at that, keep it
Yeah.
simple.
I think that point though about identifying other effective means of transportation, getting them off our roads is really important. Because I'm still seeing massive trucks going down.
Yeah, it does say somewhere in their plan that 90% of freight still goes by road.
Yeah, but I would include that in there, that bit that you just took out. Yeah, so that last bit says related to the amount of freight and heavy traffic on our roads, full stop.
And then just go full stop. There is a need to identify
yeah,
other effective means.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say an urgent need.
And then just, you've got identified on that next line down, just,
I think they've already done it. I think they've identified it, it's just doing it.
yeah.
Those are all part of it automatically.
Yeah, but if they knew, but that stuff about stopping heavy traffic on those smaller streets like
Courtney,
yeah, well, all of them. Of course they can do it.
I followed a bus
And then you can get rid of that last.
Trafalgar just on purpose. It was a huge tour bus.
But
And it went
That's
down
not
Trafalgar
bad.
at quarter to 9 this morning. And I just looked at it and just went, I've got to follow that just to see how it gets on.
after roadways.
They should have no heavy vehicles down there. It is acknowledged that what is stated relating to do. I don't understand that. You could say that that would get these vehicles off our residential smaller connecting roadways. This is also relevant related to goal 4, as it would assist transport network to be more efficient or something. Assist this to happen. Or that's,
Yeah, that
is
makes
that
sense.
right?
Yeah,
Council working this one.
yeah, we need that next week, we've covered it. Oh, it's actually, we need to mention the emergency services movement, just.
The board supports investigation of innovative possibilities around addressing. So the board supports, well, the board supports the council working with its partners to prioritise regional freight routes, get rid of that, is usefully discussed there, get rid of that, as well as innovative. I think what you had to with its partners to prioritise regional freight routes, yeah.
Yeah.
Just get rid of is usefully discussed there, yeah. Yeah, as well as the innovative possibilities around rescue and emergencies, so that it could be made clear up front around the possibilities. I don't understand that next bit.
I just get rid of that last.
Yeah. Recognising. I don't know whether it's relevant so much as it's an importance, isn't it? Or is it relevant?
Well, it's essential.
The essential need for effective emergency services movement, or is that a bit wordy? That's a bit wordy. I would change relevance to importance.
Or need.
The what, sorry?
Need. Need for.
Yeah, the need for the effective movement of emergency services. Is commended, yep. This acknowledges that it is not just safe streets and safe streets that are relevant when community safety is. That's a good point, yeah. Yep.
I have to say, I've had it reported to me several times now that in these units, with the number of cars in them, that people are getting stuck. They can't get the cars in and out. I've heard of one that an ambulance couldn't get down the driveway to the person.
I hope they're noting these things. Just go back to the network, of course, facilitates evacuations rather than facilities. Yeah, facilitates evacuations of residents and the arrival of emergency and disaster responders, which are key to preserving life. Okay. Perhaps just say, with the increased challenges from climate change, it is worth noting here.
Is that here?
Yeah, with the increased challenges from climate change, it is worth noting here. Just as you put, that flooding is likely to be.
I'd take out the likely. That flooding will be an
We
ongoing.
can't say that though. We don't. I mean,
Well, flooding
no.
is becoming.
Oh yes, that would work. It's becoming a more common. Yeah. Yeah. So you mean which directly affects the transport network? Can we say that? Can we just? Yeah, with water runoff from the built environment, this is interrelated to many.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting thing because the streets are used as part of their.
Yeah, but people don't realise that.
That's a bit long there. Yeah. So with the increased training service, we've noticed which directly is the
Just always put with increased runoff from the built environment.
Yeah.
Increased water runoff from the built environment.
Intensification puts more pressure on the stormwater network. With increased water runoff from the built environment, intensification or building intensification, do we need to say? No, it's implied, isn't it? Intensification puts more pressure on the stormwater network, full stop. Just tell us what you were meaning with that next bit, Mark, so that we can maybe reword it.
Just the,
So you're talking about the perception?
yeah. Emphasize the perception.
Oh, I see. So connecting it in that way, I was thinking about drains and pipes. Residents.
It's not just a perception that streets are drains in heavy
It's actually
rainfall situation. It's an intended reality because we want the water to be on the streets, not on properties.
Yeah, I think that you're right, actually, Simon. I think that needs to say, not that they recognise it, Mark. Residents are increasingly having to manage surface flooding in their communities.
Yeah, there's an increasing impact of it, perhaps.
Yes, exactly, as
Something like
an
that.
increasing impact. Oh, no, we've got increasingly already there, so.
No, residents are increasingly dealing with the impact of.
Okay, yep. Increasingly dealing
Yep.
with the impacts
Impact of surface flooding.
resulting from the intensification. Is that, do we need to put, make it? Yeah, I think that's all right. Yep. Board appreciates the council taking a wide view of the connections and also considering innovative solutions. Just say the board appreciates the council considering innovative solutions such as investigating the use of permeable surfaces, rain. Can you put such as but not limited to? Because there are always plenty of other things, but not limited to. Yeah, the use of, so next, get rid of investigate. The use of permeable surfaces. I'd say surfaces and rain gardens where applicable. Okay, does that work? The board appreciates considering. Yeah, solutions.
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay.
Yep, just before closing off, what was the piece we got rid of in doing that? There was another topic in that sentence that was about working with on a regional partners or something like that.
Stand by, caller, he's just
Sorry.
logging.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want them to undo it and lose what we've got here now, which is all good.
We had, so that paragraph did read, the connection might also be noted here that flooding is liable to be a more common emergency, which directly affects the network. With water runoff from the built environment, this is interrelated to managing growth well, as intensification is seen to put more pressure on the stormwater network, with residents connecting this to occasions of streets visibly becoming the drains for surface flooding. The board appreciates the council taking a wide view of the connections to district planning and also considering innovative solutions such as,
I don't think we've missed anything.
the only thing we
It
took out
was
was
wide view of,
district plan.
yeah, that was the bit. Yeah, I just wanted to, and yeah, we have taken that out, and that's okay, isn't it? We don't, or do we want that back in there as another point?
It might be another reference further down.
I'm agnostic about it. Yeah, if it's referenced further down, that's
I
good.
think the issues that we're talking about related to the district plan are actually itemised now in that paragraph with issues such as the surface flooding and the runoff from development. So, I mean, that's
True.
my take on it. I think we've explained it enough that it doesn't need to be brought back to district planning because that's already quite clear in it, is my feeling.
Yeah.
Because all of
Yeah, I
those
think
issues
you're
are
right.
related to district planning.
Mm-hmm.
The board
covered
supports,
it.
the board supports the focus in relation to looking after the city's transport efforts. Do you agree with the goals? Well managed transport instance, well managed.
Can we take out the bit in the
Yeah.
middle one between the commas?
Yeah.
The board supports the focus on effective whole of life management.
Which includes cost-effective and innovative maintenance solutions. It's also reassuring that it is recognised. Goal 2 is an interrelated goal, as the city's transport assets need to sufficiently stand up to avoid. What's the other way of saying that something is able to manage or is able to, it's the resilience thing again, isn't it? Well, yeah, you could say as the city transport assets are resilient enough to.
You didn't want to use that word, Ellie.
I know, but it works here. I can't think of another way to say it. Are resilient, and it's people who don't like being called resilient, I don't know. Are resilient enough to.
No,
I don't like stand up to too. It's sort of a bit human. Are resilient enough to
withstand.
yeah. To withstand, yeah. Right, and climate change. To ensure people are protected. I would actually get rid of everything after climate change. If you agree, yep. It's appreciated that district planning has competing requirements, but evolving times. Residents.
That's good.
On streets remain against. Can we say that asset management decisions are made for appropriately?
Or just are made strategically.
Oh, yeah, are made strategically. And for good reason. Because that's the big thing, isn't it? People go, what? I just like that because it's plain English. Decisions are made.
And in full stop after reason.
And get rid of the for after made, Mark. So it's management decisions are made strategically and for good reason. Yeah. Okay. A more resilient transport network. How many pages are there of this? Because I think we're only up to page 3 and there are 10 of them.
It's
No,
just the
it's not.
goal and then.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
All right,
yeah,
right.
not much
Sorry.
more.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
The board convenes. I would just say the board is pleased that there is recognition of the strategic challenge around building more resilience into our transport network. And that this not only raises the challenge, or the challenging twice, only raises the issue of adapting to a changing climate, but other natural hazards such as relation to the. Can we just get rid of relating to other natural hazards such as the alpine fault and Hickoronian subduction zone? While cost pressures are appropriately shown, the strategy is relevant overall to getting the balance right. We need to look after the next generation insurance and to be notable. Well, cost pressures are shown to look after the next generation. And severity. I don't understand that last bit.
Possibly it's already said in the one above.
I think it is.
Yeah, okay, cool, yep. Tell us what you think about goals 3, a safe. Are you talking about significant housing developments there? Is the Northcote stuff? Oh, it's
the
supermarket.
commercial with
Yeah.
school development,
Okay.
housing, everything.
Yeah. I think you need to be specific about that because significant developments could be anything at all. I think we need to
Even
really
just put in brackets after developments, commercial.
commercial,
School.
educational, residential. Residential. Is that meant to say and the importance of these key transport corridors? Linking up to, get rid of that. So key transport linking and get rid of the up, linking to state highways. And all school travel routes, right. The board is keenly focused on the safety of the students at schools concerned with the operation of these corridors, thinking not just of the present. Noting not only the presentations made to the board this year, noting not just the presentations, only the presentations made to the board this year.
Made to us.
Or made to us from St Bede's College and Marion College, but also those from, but also those from.
Take it back from speaking.
Yes, In this letter regard, the board notes the relevance to safety of speed. When we say relevance of safe speed zones around schools, of safe speed zones around schools. And our recent request we'll also just get rid of the here. Maybe the board also notes that strong advocacy for red light cameras at Westminster Crab Street and Image Park pedestrian traffic signals. I think you need to say as the amount of traffic continues to grow in an area that includes large numbers of young people and or school children, families, what do you want to put there? There's now numbers of school children and young people.
I think there's only a note in there somewhere. It does explicitly say in the plan that they plan to collaborate with New Zealand Police and the TA to increase the number of safety cameras across the city. Automated enforcement is expected to reduce speeding and red light running. So I think we need to get in there somewhere that we're supportive of that. Paragraph. Don't worry about it in this regard, just put in borders, supportive of the plan to collaborate to increase the number of safety cameras.
That's what you think of what should transfer.
All this we can put in here is a bit about people. Should be just put all things. There should be a focus on people in all transport planning.
And but also there needs to be a focus on all people. So I mean that may be
On moving all people.
Yeah, well, and look, all forms of transport. I mean, you've got to have active so the board thinks should be a focus
Well, the active transport that kind of comes in the next goal. Transport choices.
On moving. Why don't you say it should be a focus on efficiently moving people, whether they be in a bus, in a car, on a scooter, pedestrians.
Or just put whatever their mode of transport.
Oh, whatever their mode of transport, sorry.
We don't have to list them.
We'll be here all day.
And efficiently focus.
And it's this goal here that talks especially about freight. So we can see our comments above on the impact of freight.
And heavy vehicles on our roads. You say on our local roads, so we're making it.
No, just on our roads,
On our
'cause
roads, okay.
they have an impact on all roads.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
less of
we
an
do that.
impact on big roads that are built for them than they do on the little Courtney streets and Newsy streets.
Courtney Street's a collector road. Stop complaining.
I can't believe it took us this long for someone to mention Courtney Street.
Oh, no, you've already done it. You're not listening, Ty. It's already been raised.
Simon.
Okay, I withdraw and apologise. I'm sorry.
Right, number five.
I'm also going to have to apologise for departure. Sorry, I've got some other commitments. I'm happy with how this is shaping up. Will we get a final draft of this?
Yes. Did you have any specific comments on the dog one?
No, I don't.
No,
No.
cool.
Are you a
Okay.
dog owner, just out of interest?
Me? No.
No.
No conflict from me.
Speaking of which, I've got to get back to my dog, our dog, looking after a dog. All things which genuine transport, with no support sector.
And how about what should include rail?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It is important the goals here are able to adapt to innovative and evolving modes of transport. I would say transport and technology. That's key. Recognising that what's micro mobility?
That's your e-scooters and the shared things.
Share ride stuff.
Well, you know, your Lime scooters and your.
Oh, that. Oh, okay. Okay, recent.
Micro vehicles.
Also, they might. All right, okay. I've never heard that before. Micromobility trends. Do people know what that is?
Yeah, it's referenced in the
It
document.
is one. Okay.
Yeah.
Trends are revealing.
We've already mentioned technology now. Maybe just recognising how quickly recognising how quickly micromobility trends have and will continue to change. Good stuff. Get rid of that next bit. Right, last one.
Yeah, this is your well-being one.
Do we want to say something in here about the old, was it 15-minute?
15-minute cities.
Cities neighbourhoods.
That's changed now, haven't they changed it?
Well, it's nothing. I mean, like, it's just a concept.
Well, you know, I don't know, but it is mentioned in the plan about how people should be able to
live in their own communities.
Yeah.
Move around their own communities. Yeah, I think that's really important because, I mean, yes, the free shuttle in town is good, but I also think that there needs to be, we need to look at all our, so at the moment, I think most of the planning is done around the malls, big malls, and, in between each mall, there should also be some sort of network that's connecting up locally. So bus systems that just go in an area, go around, so people can go to their local supermarket to get their coffee they forgot and don't have to go to the mall.
Yeah, well, the plan talks about designing walkable catchments around local and commercial centres.
Walkable. It's not just walkable because this, we've got our disabled.
About cycling, micromobility.
I think one of the key issues here, it's something that I've been banging on about. I don't know what the rest of the board feels about it, but we keep kind of putting band-aids on stuff and trying to make mad big roads work for pedestrians and so forth. I just wonder whether we shouldn't be saying, look, we've got to be a bit more, what's the word when you aim high? The word is escaping me.
Aspirational.
Thank you very much, Mark. We have to be more aspirational when it comes to looking at ways of moving pedestrians around, and that's why I've mentioned the pedestrian walkovers. Now, I know that everyone's saying they're too expensive. You need land, you need engineering, it's never going to happen. But if we don't at least start talking about it and think about ways that we can move people around our communities, it is never going to happen. So as it is at the moment, we've got pedestrians wanting to cross from one side of the road to the other, and actually the walkover at the top end where you turn onto. Anyway, there are other places that it could happen as well, but I don't know whether we should at least plant the seed here and
Well,
say.
it does talk in here about, with those walkable catchments, slower speeds, attractive and green streets, safe pedestrian crossing infrastructure, and places to sit and rest all on centre points.
That's on road level. So I'm talking about specifically getting people off the roads and pavements away from the traffic, and it's never ever been something that's looked at.
But
Because people with disabilities.
yeah,
It's works overseas.
I think it's covered. Safe pedestrian crossing infrastructure could include.
Yeah, but it's like the public transport, Emma. It means, unless we state and rail, public transport means buses, and unless we state, alternatives or aspirational ideas like pedestrian walkovers, then pedestrian crossings are road crossings. But it's up to you. It's something that I'm feeling very strongly about. But if the board isn't, then that's your call.
see, I come at it from a different view, and the fact that at the moment, like if we're reducing vehicles, our footpaths will be safer. If we're increasing these cameras and the red light running and ensuring that that's cut down, there's no need for that overbridge, because actually what we're doing is making the road safe for all users.
Yeah.
And then the money can be spent elsewhere.
Yeah, and I agree that that's a great idea, but as we found with the bus lanes for 3 years, it hasn't reduced the traffic at all. So there.
Well, I disagree with you. The bus lane hasn't reduced traffic.
Not going there.
because
Anyway,
traffic has increased because of increase of numbers.
Yeah, but the point is the traffic hasn't decreased. And
but no, we're not talking about specifically.
No, but what I'm saying is I don't think that unless we're seeing traffic decreasing, then we are not getting a safer road environment.
No, but if we can make areas with slower speeds and safer pedestrian crossing infrastructure and cameras and stuff, then.
I mean, the cameras are the big thing. We know that because we sit around this table and we hear it day in, day out.
Oh, great, if they're gonna go in, bring it on.
Yeah, well, that's why I just put that last bit in.
Yeah.
Because it says they're gonna work.
Okay, well, maybe it's in the future if and when we need it then.
Maybe just put in there, Mark, that we are supportive of the desire to introduce walkable catchments.
Well, I think it's investigate though, Emma. I don't think we're even near there. I think,
Design.
the board is.
It refers to designing walkable catchments. Walkable catchments around local and commercial centres. And it does also mention improving the footpath condition and safety as a priority, which we often talk about.
Yep.
Footpaths.
Yep. It was a huge thing in the survey, the satisfaction survey.
So maybe put comma after centres and focus on improving footpath condition.
Can I suggest we say the improvement of footpaths, including condition, width? There was a whole lot of stuff in the survey, the resident satisfaction survey, that not only talked about the condition of the footpath, but also the width of them, and some places that don't even have footpaths.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of stuff around footpaths, but.
Did it also include use of them? Because I think, Cranford Street again is another fine example of the area where all the kids come out from school onto the footpath.
Yeah.
That's also the cycle lane. Yeah, the footpath is the cycle,
Right.
The cycle.
Shared path.
And so it's a shared path.
Right.
Which is probably quite an inappropriate place to have a shared path when you've got large numbers
Of cycles and kids.
of kids coming out onto it.
Yeah, I think Mark's covered it there, general provision of footpaths, yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I really like that next bit, I think that's great.
It's from our other weekend submission.
Yeah, it's good though, because that park and ride and the issues with the new, venues. Yeah.
Oh, and I'd also like to put in there about, we are pleased to see the commitment to continuing to support schools to create their traffic plans to encourage active travel.
So does this parking come into this at all? Because I've just,
It is mentioned in it.
because if they do introduce this free shuttle, I would imagine that St Albans will have a bigger issue than it already has of people parking in their streets all day. And I have already had, like, just in the last couple of weeks, I have had 2 people complain to me that they're outside their houses.
How does the shuttle in the central city affect parking in St Albans?
People would park on the fringes of the city and catch it.
Yeah, but that's bloody miles away from where the shuttle's going to be.
No, the shuttle will come up to BDF.
That we've put here that it will cover a block or so outside the courts. But there is a bit in here that says about developing a coordinated curbside and parking management approach for higher urban density areas.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's good.
Yeah, because all that area down there, sort of all needs to be changed into timed parking during the day.
Yeah, it probably needs that anyway.
Yeah, it does. Like looking at it, you look at all the streets off Beeley Ave going north.
Mhm.
During the day, they're all chocker.
Yeah.
Yep.
It says here we are investigating using technology to obtain better baseline parking occupancy data in more intensively developed parts of the city. This will enable us to respond more effectively to residents' concerns and design a comprehensive parking management approach suitable for our city.
Okay, great. Yep.
Okay.
We plan to develop more coordinated curbside and parking management approaches. That's covered.
Okay.
Cool. Anything else we need to add for that one?
I think the car parking prices on Rolliston Ave are too expensive. Can you put that down? $9 for 2 hours to go to the
The dog
movies.
control bylaw, this one seems to be quite polarizing,
You should have taken the bus, Ellie.
depending on whether you own a dog or not.
Yeah, have you all sort of heard the complaints about the tail wagging the dog here, if you excuse the pun, with regards to questions and answers?
Yeah,
I've seen a lot on Facebook and social media about that.
yeah. I have to. Well, I mean, I don't even have a dog.
I can see it from both sides.
I can see it from both sides as well. My comment here was, well, first of all, dog walkers. That's their doing it professionally should be considered. They should be able to get some.
Yeah, well, they can get an exemption.
Oh, they can. Okay,
Yep.
that's good. And the other one, I said, dog owners seem fairly considerate in my view. These rules could be seen as overlording people's personal reasoned choice on how to train and walk their dog. How to walk their dog, bringing in things like training, age, breed, brings up the question of equitable access to dog runs too. Dogs love to run.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is that if these changes are going to be introduced, they have to be offset by providing more spaces across the city for dogs to run freely.
And don't do this until that's done.
There is another thing too, and we see it in Melbourne Park especially, and people get quite nasty about it, and around Hagley Park, is about walking your dog on leash and not letting your dog off leash in places where they're not supposed to be. And there are signs in Melbourne Park saying don't let your dog off the leash. And so they run at other dogs and you go, hang on. And they go, no, I've got a friendly dog. And you say, yeah, I know, but if your dog's going to come up in the grill of mine, it's going to have a snip, a snap at it. So one of the issues too, I think, is, and I don't know whether that could be in here, is that there has to be better communication, and whether that's a public information campaign and enforcement or self-reporting, I don't know, but I do think that, and I hear this from other dog owners as well. So in city council parks, there needs to be more work done on communicating what the rules are and a way to help people to self-report issues when they encounter them. Because when you say put your dog on a leash because you're not supposed to have it off leash, people go, where does it say that? Or
Yeah, and it refers to,
I don't care.
yeah, there is.
it does say there's, they're doing an interactive map online map where people can see exactly where they are allowed to have them off the leash and not. But that doesn't negate the need for signs.
And well, maybe it's more of a promotional thing about dogs are to be on leashes at all times unless. So the exceptions are the ones that are in the maps. I mean, if you're in a public park, you shouldn't have your dog off its leash, in my opinion. There's kids there, there's other dogs there. And I do that, I say that as a dog.
Yeah, I
person.
guess the big thing is it has to be clear and not confusing.
Yeah, so well, then that's up to the
That's the
council
problem.
comms people to be able to.
I am supportive of restricting the dogs in those wildlife areas,
Yes, I'm too.
Yes.
Yeah.
river and the groins and history.
So some use ticks on some of those.
Yes to those, yeah. And the basins, yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with having dogs on short leashes either. That's the first one there. Do you support the proposal to have them on short leash on
On
footpaths?
paths.
Yeah, I see. I always hold the dog tight on those,
Yeah.
in those
Whereas
situations.
a lot of people don't.
Oh, you've ticked yes there anyway, right?
We ticked it.
Just responding to what you're saying.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
Do you support the proposal we proposing to? We've got that there 2 years. Do you support the proposal that has got this?
Mike's just put some comments, you go further down.
Oh, okay, right, yep. What's that one we haven't ticked there above there? Do you support the proposed limit to dogs? Number of dogs?
Yes, because it says there's an exemption
Okay,
process.
right, yep.
Yeah.
The board notes that with increasing. Can we say in our areas, we're not repeating board twice, in our area, and the need for recreational amenities within Woodford as residents. Consideration is just bring dog parks in. Sorry, there is a guy around us that has a dog in the front of his bike.
Well, there's a few.
Yeah, and with more intensive housing.
Actually, I think we should take that out. It's not realistic for people to cycle, because again, that's personal choice and people do. People
Start with more.
Yeah.
Although that's in repeating what we've just said. So we've got up the first sentence, more increasing intensification.
Yeah, take the whole thing out, yeah. Yep. A request for a small dog. Can we say the recent request to our board? Small dog park. One precious convenience. What do you mean by it is hoped regulation would support these requests being considered? You mean this bylaw stuff, Mark?
Yeah, I was also conscious that it's a submission on the bylaw.
Right.
So it's like, well, it may not solve all parts of that
Right.
request, but it's like, is it relevant? Can the bylaw support it?
Well, could you say, Costa, with this, it is helpful when regulation supports. It is helpful when regulation / bylaws, unless you don't think it's needed, supports
Can we put something like,
these requests.
don't change anything, Mark, but maybe we should just put something like, can the council spend their time advocating to the government to make our society one such that they'd like to hang out with people rather than dogs?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just go after these requests being considered, recognising that intensification and climate change should be impacted in additional ways. I don't understand that. Should be impacting. I don't even know whether we need that. unless you can explain what.
It's probably already said.
Okay.
It's just making that part of the picture rather than just like, oh, let's put a dog park nearby, they make lots of noise, let's not do that. It's like, well, actually, what impact does that have?
Okay, so you're saying that there needs to be, look, I think you have said that in the first paragraph, actually.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. The bylaw review is proposing notable additions to regulation making influence to balance. Again, I don't think you need that.
Yeah, probably just saying the same thing.
Yeah, I think so. Ensuring appropriate larger spaces for larger dogs. Ensuring there are appropriate larger spaces for larger dogs is as important. Get rid of some true freedom, retain some true freedom is as important. Is important to balance spaces like the Botanic Gardens for residents seeking significant dog food, right? Yeah. Is as important to balance the need for spaces like Botanic Gardens. Oh, do you need Botanic Gardens in there? Just the balance the need for spaces for residents seeking significant dog-free zones. Oh, no, that's a good example.
No, it's a good example.
Yes,
Yeah,
a good example, yeah.
Yeah, the proposals tend towards financial. Can you put your wording in there, Emma, that you said before, which was more about if you're going to start restricting places, you need to increase others? Because I think the way you worded that was quite good.
I remember how I worded it. If restrictions are going, if the proposed restrictions are going to be imposed.
Implemented?
Yeah.
Appropriate spaces
Appropriate spaces need to be provided
first.
Appropriate spaces where dogs can be off leash need to be.
What about enough appropriate spaces? Need to be provided.
Yep.
It's about the number.
Need to be provided in convenient locations.
Oh, yeah.
I have to say, this is actually really all quite funny, considering that, we also have a city of people that don't walk on footpaths anymore.
We're talking about dogs.
Yeah, well, we're talking about the footpath space, and we have a whole lot of people say, oh no, we wouldn't walk on the streets, too dangerous. Oh no,
I walk on the street.
I mean, I do too, but that is a perception that comes through as these footpaths are not being used by people. Apart from those that walk dogs.
Well, I use the dog as a buffer in case a car hits me. That's why I get greyhounds, because they're big, they're about waist height. That's terrible. I'm sorry I said that. We're not recording, are we?
I think you might.
If the proposed restriction is going to be implemented, enough appropriate spaces where dogs can be off leash need to be provided. Yeah, I think that reads really well. Ensuring the balance of spaces.
I think this last paragraph, it does, it may be repetition of what's above, but it's a nice wrap up and philosophical look at it.
What about just ensuring a balance of spaces?
Yeah.
Recognises the benefits to canine and human health and well-being of robust relational training, notion that looking after the family dog generally needs to overlapping time.
So that's putting to the fact that the bylaw says about dog not being allowed on sports park when there's games and training and stuff on, doesn't it?
Really needs to. Can you say align with or fit in with rather than overlap? That it needs to align with.
It's but yeah, I agree, but it needs to coincide with.
Oh, that's a better word, John.
Yeah.
That's a better word. Needs to coincide with. People's exercise routines,
Family
Yeah.
life.
Or just people's exercise opportunities works.
exercise
Recreation.
opportunities. Oh, that sounds weird. With people's exercise routines and what did you
Yeah.
say? Recreational.
Recreational activities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
That's it.
family life, yeah.
Yeah. And dogs are also used in some sports. Don't know about that. I don't actually get that. Dogs are used in some sports and trained on this year. What do you mean by that?
Just like dog sports or dog training that is, I'm not sure whether
What,
it's.
save the guy from the burning
Oh,
building
yeah.
type stuff?
Yeah, where,
I'm being a bit Huskies, you talking about that?
Well, we do dog training at the community centre. And so there's puppies, like that come into the community centre whilst other groups are using it. And yeah,
Right.
I'm sure that upsets some people.
That's a really long sentence. I would put a full stop after activities and then start the new sentence with dogs.
Mm.
Some dogs or dogs are also used and some. Yeah, that works better. It's a bit separate.
Yep.
Oh God, is there another one?
The parks one, it doesn't really change much at all.
So that's quite a stretch to think of something because you don't really need to have.
I don't
anything.
even think we need to submit on that one.
Yeah.
I had a read of it and it's quite trivial stuff that it's updating.
Yeah.
Is there anything, sorry, Anna, because I haven't looked at it, is there anything in there about historic parks? Like the different types of parks? It's just that Aberley Park, there's been a lot of issues to do in regards to Aberley Park over the years. And really it all seemed to come back down to the fact that it's a historic park which sits outside other parks. I think it's been dealt to now with the new changes and things, but having that historic.
Well, it's a really good point. I haven't read it either. So does anything jump out at you, Emma?
Well, the changes, clarifying how the dog control bylaw applies in parks and reserves, updating things like bikes to include electric bikes and scooters and electric scooters, including vessels and other mechanical devices as being prohibited from being dumped. A change to reflect that we now have FENZ instead of the urban fire safety bylaw, that sort of thing.
So they're just updating it really, aren't they? Just bringing it
Updating how it fits in with the freedom camping bylaw, updating terms for lightweight drones to reflect that legislation.
Yes,
it's all words.
Yes, legislation.
There are no major changes.
So the historic thing will already be in the bylaw thing, will it?
Well, it doesn't seem to be covered by the bylaw.
Okay. Is this the time though that it could be raised as something that needs to be included? Because it's not.
I don't actually think so. I think that's the classification.
The bylaw does have part 3 special areas, and it talks about Hagley Park, Botanic Gardens, and Graffiti Golf Course. And that's all.
There'll be well, there you go. These
they must be under but they'll be under maybe some legislation.
Yeah, which is what Emma just said. So it'll be
yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think it fits under this bylaw.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah. So we won't do anything on that one.
No.
And I looked at that one as well. I
don't have any suggestions for that time back to anything in the board plan or things that have come up recently.
No, I don't think so.
I just think that we support that those change. I looked a little bit at it, and those changes are improving the the discharge and things like that. So I'd support them all.
Just a decision whether to submit in support of anything or just flag it.
Yep.
Obligation to submit.
Oh, we can submit saying we're genuinely supportive of it.
Yeah.
Just so that it's not only hearing from people who aren't.
Yeah.
We're always telling other people to submit when they support stuff, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't even need to. Oh, we can do the, should we do the same for the Parks one?
Yeah.
Books for that.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in that, is there?
Generally support the updating provisions.
Yes, may as well do that.
Yeah.
So that we
Because I
have-
suppose the one, can you just take that up a wee bit? Back up. Was it potted, sorry, the tankard, so there's the tankard waste and that, so, which is great that that's happening. And then was there, something that, I can go back up a wee bit more as well. Oh, the dewatering with the trade, that one, because that's quite a big one for our communities.
Right, I'll check
So
that now.
we
Well
can
done.
support that.
Yeah, awesome. Good job.
Thanks for staying for that, guys.
That's right, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Vicky,
Oh, I've had a right, aren't we? Can't we just go?
Unahia, ki te uru tapunui, kia wātia, kia mama, te ngāko, te tinana, te wairoa, e te arataka. Koia rā e rongo o whakairia ake ki runga, te tina, ui e tai.
You go too fast.
Sorry, I just.
Be grateful.